The silent, clawsome scratches don't just mark, they name your sins, and when they deepen, your guilt carves a shadow. Lila Draven woke to the rasp at 2:29 a.m., a sharp, scraping sound cutting through the silence of her forest cabin studio. The studio, a cedar-walled shack nestled in a fog-choked hollow of the Adirondacks, was her creative sanctuary, packed with cameras, sketch pads, and tattered scripts for her YouTube channel, Scars of Dread, where she spun fictional thrillers and probed haunted etchings for 245,000 subscribers. She lit a lantern, its glow trembling on the rough-hewn walls, and saw it. A scratch, crude and jagged, etched into the plaster by the window, forming a sigil that pulsed like a bruise. It hadn't been there when she'd collapsed after editing a video about cursed scratches. The cabin was bolted, the windows latched, the forest silence heavy outside. Lila's heart pounded as she approached, the sigil twisting, whispering a mystery she'd buried. "Lila, you betrayed him." She forced a laugh, a frail shield against the fear clawing her chest, but the sound was swallowed by the rasp. She was a storyteller, her channel built on crafting dread, not falling for it. Yet this was too vivid, too personal. Her phone buzzed. On the desk, a notification from no sender. "Trace it now." The air thickened, heavy with a scent like damp wood and something acrid like blood. Lila wasn't reckless. She'd filmed in haunted clearings, narrated tales of forbidden claws for her series Etched Nightmares. But this was intimate, the scratch too alive, its lines crawling across the wall like veins. The sigil pulsed, the scratch forming a charm, silver and etched with a spiral pattern shimmering in the plaster's grain. The whisper named it. "You broke his vow." Lila's stomach twisted. The charm was familiar. Her friend, Kyle Wren, had worn one like it, a token from their art school pact to always share their creations. Kyle had died 4 years ago in a forest blaze. Lila had survived. They'd been filming a high-risk shoot for her channel, Kale warning about the dry underbrush, Lila pushing for a dramatic scene lit by torches. The fire roared, and Lila escaped, telling rescuers she'd tried to save Kale, but she'd fled, too scared to run back into the flames. For him, the whisper sharpened, Kale's voice now low and accusing. "You stole my spark." Lila's laptop flared, playing footage she hadn't shot. The forest, Kale burning, his charm glinting, a shadow stirring in the smoke. The scratch deepened, and the charm appeared on the desk, its spiral glowing, warm as a pulse. Her phone flickered, showing a live feed of the cabin filmed from an impossible angle above. Her face pale, the scratch glowing like a wound. She looked up. No camera, just sagging rafters. The feed shifted, showing Kale behind her, gray and charred, his charm gleaming. Lila spun, but the cabin was empty, the whisper in the wall. "Claw it." Her hands trembled, guilt surging like a wildfire. She hadn't just survived. She'd lied, claiming Kale ignored her warnings, hiding her ambition. She'd built scars of dread on stories that erased his vision, profiting from his death as her subscriber count soared. The scratch widened, naming her sins. Lila laughing in the forest, Kyle's screams drowned by the flames. She grabbed paint and slathered it over the wall, the sigil vanishing, but it clawed back, sharper, the charm glowing brighter, the whisper louder. "You gave him to them." A shadow scratched in the corner, its form blurred, its hands carving the air. The cabin shook, the walls groaning, a door forming where her sketchpad stood, its frame etched with spirals. It wasn't in the cabin's layout, wasn't real. Lila clutched the charm, its metal searing her palm, and the door swung open, revealing a staircase descending into darkness. The whisper roared, "Find him." She didn't want to go. Every instinct screamed to run, but the charm pulsed, the scratch's glow searing her mind. She grabbed her flashlight, its beam trembling, and stepped onto the stairs. The door, slamming shut. The staircase was stone, its walls carved with spirals flickering with the charm's light. The air was cold, smelling of ash and blood like the fire's aftermath. The flashlight caught Cale's face in the walls, his eyes accusing, his charm glowing. Lila's chest ached, tears spilling. She hadn't meant to let Cale die, hadn't meant to lie. But the truth was worse. She'd craved fame, Cale's caution a burden she'd shed. The stairs spiraled deeper, the walls closing in, the air growing heavier. She stumbled, the flashlight skittering across the stone, its beam catching carvings of their art school days. Lila and Cale in the studio, sketching storyboards, laughing, over cheap coffee, their charms glinting in sync. The memory stung, a reminder of the pact she'd broken, the trust she'd traded for views. The stairs ended at a chamber, vast and shadowed, its ceiling lost in darkness. At its center stood a plinth, the charm resting on it glowing brighter, the scratch pulsing in the air. Kyle's voice echoed, "You traded me." Lila approached, her legs heavy, the whisper pounding in her skull. She reached for the charm, and the chamber shook, the walls morphing into the forest, its flames roaring, smoke choking the air. The flashlight died, the charm's glow the only light. The shadow emerged, not Cale but Lila herself, her face pale, her hands carving glowing scratches. "You gave me to them," the shadow said, its voice her own, layered with something ancient, ravenous. Lila backed away, the charm burning, naming her sins, abandoning Cale, stealing his art, running from guilt. A memory surged. The pact, Lila and Cale vowing to share their creations, sealed with the charm. Lila had broken it, whispering to the dark she'd trade anything for a viral hit. The flames closed in, the shadow's hands cold, pulling Lila into the scratch. The charm glowed, its spiral rewriting her life, her channel erased, her name forgotten, her cabin gone. She fought, her screams drowned by the whisper, but the scratch was endless. She woke in the forest's ruins, dawn breaking over charred trees. Her cabin was gone, her phone blank, the charm cold around her neck, the spiral etched on her skin. Footprints, small and ashen, led into the fog. Lila followed and found a shard of plaster, half buried, its scratch etching her face glowing with guilt. A whisper followed, her own voice. "You're theirs." Cale's voice lingered inside her, a claw she'd never erase. Morning came, and her studio was empty, her digital footprint wiped. The police found a burn mark in the ruins, shaped like a spiral. Locals whispered of a woman in the fog, wearing a charm, waiting for someone to trace it. Lila's neighbor heard scraping at night, a claw humming in an empty shack. Somewhere in a place of ash and stone, Lila stands, the charm around her neck, her scratch deepening, whispering her failures. Her own shadow watches, its smile eternal, its voice a constant hum. The worst part, the thing that keeps her trapped, is the truth she'll never know. The shadow wasn't Cale's, it was Lila's, carved by her guilt,